my name is Kaylee and I'm here today to give you some troubleshooting tips for teaching piano lessons. I know a lot of piano teachers and music teachers that when a kid just doesn't understand a song or they just keep playing it incorrectly over and over again, it seems like there's nothing that you can do except just say, practice it again. Practice it again. Well, just keep practicing. I don't know what to tell you. So I want to tell you some tips and tricks that you can teach to each student if they're really struggling with a song and they're getting frustrated with it. Here are some ways that you can explain the notes to them and help them to understand it better, because just practicing it over and over incorrectly is not helping anybody. The number one best thing that you can do for a child that is having trouble with a song is tell them to make connections. Make connections between the notes, make connections between the rhythm, make connections with the song. How does it fit together? Analyze it. What is the structure of the song? And this works for the very, very beginners who are playing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and this works for me still. You know, very advanced pianists have to stop and think and analyze the music and make a connection somehow to help them to remember how this song fits together. Music is all about repeating patterns and changing patterns and inverting patterns. There's a lot of math involved and there's a lot of patterns to look for in music. So one of the best things you can do for the student is to say, hey, look, this is the same as this. And then this part is the same as this other part. This is a pattern. It has repeated itself. Another great thing to do, especially with beginners, is to tell them, look for movement in the notes. Is it going up a note or is it going down a note? Or you could say, look at this group of notes. All these notes are moving up. And then look at this group. All these notes are moving down. So just pointing that out to them can really help them focus on each directional movement of each note, and it'll help them to focus, and sometimes they'll be able to analyze that and put that together. And somehow in their mind, then that starts to make sense, and then they're able to play it much more smoothly. One of the things I'll tell my students sometimes is that they need to think of the notes like puzzle pieces. Think of how these notes fit together like a puzzle piece. And that really gets their cognitive thinking going. They start analyzing it and thinking of it like interlocking pieces of notes. And sometimes just that one reference, think of it like a puzzle piece. And that's enough to get them going, and then they start seeing those patterns for themselves. Here's a song in the Alfred Premier Piano Book, Level 1A, that's called A Page or Two. In this song, we have a lot of patterns of notes. We have a pattern that begins on E, and then it goes up and down, and it stops on E. We have a pattern that starts on D, it goes up and down, and it ends on D. Then the next pattern starts on C, it goes up and down, and it ends on C. So this is an excellent example to show kids that here's a pattern. It starts on C, it ends on C. It starts on D, it ends on D. And those things will help them to make sense of each little group of notes. I'll often tell students to group notes together in their mind. There's this little group, and then I focus on this little group, and then I focus on this next group. Usually you can tell these by, these are all staccato, and then these are all legato. Or you can tell by your phrase markings sometimes. A lot of the times they feel overwhelmed just looking at the entire song. So if you can focus them in on one small part, all right, now let's move to the next small part. That can be very helpful for them. Sometimes I'll make a reference to a student's brain. Your brain is taking in this information through your eyes, and then your brain is analyzing that information and then sending signals down to your fingers to play this note. Sometimes they don't even think, oh yeah, my brain is learning. Sometimes that one little reference, give your brain time to think, or give your muscles or your fingers, you have to train them. Just like you would train your muscles if you were in baseball practice, you have to train your finger muscles to do what you're telling them to do. A lot of the time with a frustrated student, just telling them, you know, it's not like it's your fault that you're making a mistake. It's your brain is learning, that's all. I especially emphasize this with my teenage and adult students Little kids are used to making mistakes, and so they don't usually get too frustrated by that. They just continue on and they correct the mistake and they learn. But adults and teenagers are more used to feeling capable and able to do things, so then when they make a mistake, they take it much more seriously. So you have to remind them, if we make bunches of mistakes, that is awesome. That means that we're learning. And so give them permission to make mistakes. That's a good thing, as long as then you go back and you correct it. Another great way to make connections is to compare different songs. I'll actually sometimes have the student will point out to me, hey, look, this song is almost the same as that other song that we did last week. It has the same pattern, or it has the same hand position. So making a connection from something that they learned in the past and then applying it to the song they're learning now can also be very helpful to make them feel comfortable. Oh, this is the same thing. I already know how to do this. And so they have confidence in that song. Of course, there are a million other ways to make connections. A lot of it just depends on the individual song that you're learning. But if you need to troubleshoot a particularly difficult song, that's the place to start. Make connections between the notes. Make connections between the rhythm patterns. And that invariably makes it easier. If you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to ask down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.